I'm America's digital pro, Kim Komando. And in tech news this week, it's a fine line between security and privacy. Well, now the government says it can unlock your phone if it really has to. Plus, forget the freebies out there. I'm going to be telling you why online news is actually going to be costing you money soon. And stop the stalling. I'm sharing some easy ways for you to boost your Wi-Fi and reduce all those Wi-Fi failures in your house. Now, let's get the latest from the Komando.com news desk.
The news from Los Angeles this week. Sexual predators are now stalking prey by going after women who are using ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft. Now, it's happening often enough that the Los Angeles Police Department is sending up red flags to anyone using both the big companies, Uber and Lyft. And if it's happening in Los Angeles, it's got to be happening in other cities also. Here's how it goes down. A young woman leaves a popular bar, even in a crowded neighborhood, calls Uber or Lyft because maybe she's had too much to drink and she wants to go home. Then suddenly a vehicle appears. It looks like it could be an Uber or Lyft vehicle, but it's not. And in all cases, before checking the driver's ID or checking the tag number, these women have gotten into the car. The drivers take them to some secluded spot and sexually assault or rape them. Now, if you think about it, they're easy prey, especially if they're alone and they've had too much to drink. Here's how to protect yourself. If you call Uber or Lyft, the app will tell you the license plate number of the vehicle, show you the driver's picture and the car that's coming to pick you up. Always confirm the license plate number on your app and ask the driver for his name. And now let's turn to Twitter. It's not exactly breaking news that Twitter is full of harassment, racism, bullying, trolling, abuse. Even ISIS ran wild on Twitter for a number of years. Complaints to Twitter's management fell on deaf ears. But now, seemingly out of the blue, Twitter says it wants to do something about it. It's not out of the blue, by the way, and we'll tell you why in just a moment. Twitter's first big step is asking you what they're doing wrong. That's right, they have no idea what's wrong with Twitter. They have no idea about all the nasty tweets, the terrorism, the abuse, the racism, and everything else that's happening. This week, Twitter's CEO announced that Twitter will fix the problem by asking you to submit proposals on how they can measure the conversational health of the tweets going out on Twitter. In the past, when Twitter has responded to complaints, and there had to be a lot of them to get Twitter's attention, they've been reactive, not proactive. They just sometimes remove offending tweets, which is not doing anything to change the atmosphere of Twitter. And so Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is now moving fast because, as it turns out, the Twitter reaction was not out of the blue. In reality, big tech in America is in big trouble. If you think about all the scandals caused by the biggest tech companies, all the hacking, the thefts of billions of files of personal data, social media allowing live streams of murders and shootings and rapes and riots and you name it. Facebook, of course, is up to its eyeballs with Russia's election meddling. And there's no apologies ever from any of these CEOs. Most of the time, the company's PR machine simply blames its own algorithms. So now, for the first time in polls, most Americans say they're fed up and they want government regulation over big tech. Even conservatives, who usually reject bigger government, believe that big tech is not operating in the best interest of America or its people. Of course, this is a seismic shift in the public's perception of Silicon Valley. And these tech leaders have only themselves to blame, which brings us back to Twitter and its CEO, Jack Dorsey. He and the company seem to think that the best way to fix Twitter is to ask you what the heck they're doing wrong, which is a very interesting way to manage a company. And speaking of a scandal in the making, just when you think you've heard everything and seen everything with reality TV, here's a new idea. Netflix is buying into this. It's a show to try to convince someone to commit murder. The show is called The Push, and it features an illusionist named Darren Brown. This program will use a combination of paid actors along with a person who doesn't know what's going on, kind of the ultimate candid camera. The goal of the program is to get the unwitting person to agree to commit a murder, if you can believe this. The actors on the show play along during all of the chaotic events and try to manipulate the unsuspecting individual to kill someone. Of course, each plot has to get very involved. and the murder isn't actually going to take place. At least Netflix hopes not. They say it's just a social experiment to see if people can be convinced to commit an actual murder. Now, perhaps we could save them all a lot of time. Once again, think back to Facebook and social media, which has allowed live streams of murders, rapes, beatings, and riots. The answer to the question Netflix is posing is yes, you can convince some people to do anything. Perhaps one of the biggest questions is one that hasn't been brought up yet. If someone actually agrees to commit an act of murder, have they broken the law?
This week on the Komando On Demand podcast, criminals can no longer stash illegal data of any kind. A well-trained canine will find it. Some call them sniffer dogs, and the bad guys can flush it, bury it, put it in their gas tank, or even swallow it. And these sniffer dogs will find this evidence. It's really fascinating. As always, Kim gets to the bottom of how it works and tracks down some of the experts who train these sniffer dogs. That's this week on the Komando On Demand podcast. It's free on iTunes and Google Play, or on your favorite podcast player by searching Komando.
If you're a citizen of the digital world, and who isn't, everybody has at least a cell phone. Your digital footprint is being watched. How often you check your phone at night, how frequently you post on social media, even how fast you scroll up and down through contacts. All of that is being monitored. Your digital behavior, as it turns out, can hold clues to your physical and mental health. At least that's the theory behind an emerging field of a new science called phenotyping. Phenotyping tries to figure out a person's well-being based on their interactions with digital devices. There's no set scientific connection yet, but the study is on. Big tech and various researchers are tracking social media users' posts, scrolls, calls, and clicks, all in search of behavior patterns and changes that could have a connection with disease symptoms. We have one study out that says that the average person touches their phone 2,617 times in a 24-hour day. Now, for example, if that person suddenly stops texting friends, it might mean they've become depressed. Or it may mean they had a Galaxy phone that caught on fire. So far, we don't know what it means. But we do know that Facebook is scanning user posts in the United States and some other countries for signs of possible suicidal thoughts, and they haven't given users any notice that this is going on or an option to get out of the scans. Okay, now over to Apple. After sales of the iPhone X, Apple has decided to go back to the drawing board so it can sell even more phones. By the end of this year, look for 3 new iPhones. All models will have facial recognition that will unlock the device, along with new edge-to-edge screens. One's going to be the high-end phone, and it's expected to be Apple's largest iPhone ever, with a screen that's almost 6.5 inches. Some analysts say it might even have a split-screen mode to run 2 apps at once. So that's the high-end model. Another will be the same size as the current iPhone X, only with an upgraded handset. And then there'll be a lower-priced phone with some of the iPhone X features. The phones will also have an updated operating system to include upgraded augmented reality capabilities, digital health monitoring, deeper integration of the Siri digital assistant, and the option of using Animojis, the animated emojis, in FaceTime. And speaking of smartphones, as you know, Samsung has just launched its newest one, and Kim has more on that. It's the Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus. But first, you know the saying, you get what you pay for? Well, that's going to include online news, too.
A funny thing has happened to the so-called free internet. Using news and newspaper websites used to be free. All they wanted was for you to read their ads, give them your email address, and come back often. Until now. Everyone knows that printed newspapers are, pardon the pun, yesterday's news. For most people, it's easier to get news online at the newspaper's website. Now, don't think that the publishers haven't noticed, because as their print subscribers dwindle, their paid online subscribers are exploding. Free online news isn't gone, but it soon will be, as Facebook and Google now support paid subscriptions. And if you're someone who uses news websites without a paid subscription, you're going to notice that more sites are placing limits on how many free articles you can read each month. Most put the limit at 10. There are still people who believe that the internet should be free for everyone. But at the end of the day, running a website costs money. And the free ride is about to end. It's taken 18 long months, but Samsung is hoping and betting that the world is ready to move past exploding smartphone batteries and trust them once again. Are you? Just 2 years ago, Samsung was flying high as the world's largest smartphone maker. But just 14 days after unveiling their Galaxy Note 7 smartphone, Samsung's world became a disaster, one that most businesses would never survive. The Note 7 was blowing up and catching on fire everywhere, including in the air, onboard fully loaded airliners. 2.5 million were recalled. $17 billion in sales went right down the drain, and their stock deflated by $26 billion. Which brings us to earlier this week in Barcelona. They unveiled the new Galaxy S9. Most of the buzz is about its cameras. No one in the media seems worried about its battery, at least not yet. So it's taken 18 months for Samsung to bounce back, and they're hoping that you're going to come back with them. The big question, will we ever trust them again?
Breaking digital news you can use every day. News.komando.com.
This past week, Amazon moved into the smart doorbell business. They agreed to buy Ring, the company that makes the video Wi-Fi enabled doorbells, plus other security products. Ring CEO and founder says success hasn't been easy. In fact, there was a time, 2013, on the ABC show Shark Tank, that the company couldn't attract any investors. Today, Ring employs more than 1,300 people. The product is sold in 16,000 stores, and Reuters is reporting that Amazon paid over $1 billion for Ring. Time for a new tech word this week also. Let's call it shelfies, as in food on the shelf in the refrigerator. Samsung is showing off a new smart refrigerator that has the ability to speak and send you shelfies, what's on the shelves of your refrigerator inside, so that you never have to open the door. Of course, you might ask, why? Well, Samsung says this allows you to make a grocery list without having to go to the trouble to look inside the refrigerator, which, as you know, over the last 100 years has really been a pain. And this smart fridge can also give you advice on when you're running low on a product, say you need more milk or eggs or butter. And it can also track your diet, keep track of your daily calories, and make recipe suggestions. And get this, of course, the refrigerator has a large touch screen. What's the point in having a refrigerator without a touch screen? And it includes a robotic assistant that responds to commands such as play music and read to me when you need your recipes read to you. You can also load this refrigerator with all kinds of apps, so you can also use it as an expensive refrigerating calendar and maybe even a television. That way you can limit the amount of refrigerator time your kids get. It's selling first in the United Kingdom, but will soon be available throughout the United States. One of the top complaints in homes all across America, even the White House, we're told, is spotty Wi-Fi service, slow Wi-Fi. Kim joins us now with some tips to boost your sluggish Wi-Fi, all part of her column in this week's USA Today.
We've all been there, watching that spinning wheel, having a video freeze, email suddenly stops, all thanks to what? I hate it, bad Wi-Fi. You can blame signal congestion, router location, or even the size of your home. It might even be your neighbors. They could be piggybacking on your connection. But before you go knocking on your neighbors' doors, accusing them, I'm going to share some easy ways for you to boost your Wi-Fi and reduce the failures. First, make sure you have the most up-to-date version of your router's firmware. This way you can take advantage of the added features, new improvements, and also get those really important security updates. And you know the saying, location, location, location. Well, it's true for routers too. Place it as close to the center of your home as possible. And you want to keep it elevated so it's away from any obstructions like furniture or appliances. It's also a good idea to avoid areas with glass and mirrors and metal because Wi-Fi signals tend to bounce off all those types of materials. Concrete walls are terrible. They're going to impact your signal big time. Next, not all Wi-Fi bands are created equally, and 2 bands, believe it or not, are better than 1. Newer routers usually have dual bands. By enabling both, you can keep older devices on the 2.4 GHz band and put the newer devices on the faster 5 GHz band. It's actually like having 2 routers in one. And finally, sometimes all it takes is a good reboot. If your network seems sluggish, you want to unplug it from your modem and router for, say, at least 30 seconds. Plug your modem back in first and then let it get fully online. Then plug it in and turn the router back on. I've got so many more great ways to maximize your Wi-Fi, and you want to definitely check out my article in this week's USA Today. That if you want to read it right now on my website, you can. Head over to komando.com and it's in the read section. You're up to date, and I'm America's Digital Pro, Kim Komando. Hey, stay up to date with all the Komando articles and podcasts with the Komando app. It's free, and you get notifications for podcasts like this one and the very latest articles on everything digital and those security alerts. And if you like this podcast, do me a favor. Don't forget to subscribe. Head over to iTunes, Google Play, and also give us a great 5-star rating and review us, because that helps us better our podcasts and also helps more people to find our podcasts. And that's what it's all about. So thanks for listening. I'll see you next time, and I'll see you on the radio for the Kim Komando Show.